Rafay, Rashid, Ravi, Shavi, welcome back to the Bartholomew Town podcast, my friend. It's been a minute, and you've got a new record coming out, Ravi Shavi's highly anticipated new album. That's what it's described as here, right off the internet on Almost Ready Records. Wild Rock Dove. It drops on Friday, June 12th, which is the same day that this podcast will broadcast for the first time. And if you're hearing it after, you could probably find it anywhere you get music. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bill. I appreciate it, and it's been a minute since we've seen each other, so I'm always happy to see you doing your thing.
Yeah, likewise. So the last time we spoke, you had recorded a solo record, which it wasn't a true solo. You were working in collaboration, but it wasn't a Ravi Shavi record. When did you start writing this record, and what was the transition point for you in terms of going back to making this music?
Yeah, so I mean the collection of songs on Wild Rock Dove, I would say I've probably first started being formed all the way back in 2019 because our last full length Ravi Shavi record was 2020. So while we were putting that out, I had already started amassing material for whatever this next iteration would be. I think, like the process for the band Ravi Shavi has always been just to kind of play material, see what sticks, see what kind of falls to the wayside, and just record the stuff that stuck. So that's
Yeah.
sort of where we were, and then add in a couple, two or three songs that we didn't really play live that much, but that felt exciting.
Yeah, I've seen you play live in different iterations over the last couple of years as well. It was exciting to see you play in a trio where you were playing bass. That was like kind of the end of last summer. I think actually we played a show together or whatever. It was in one way or the other. It was in the building that I'm broadcasting from right now, we'll put it that way. But the different lineups, the different instrumentation, how did exploring with that kind of put you into a space that was sort of the voice, the creative engine behind this music?
Yeah, I'd say like the newest songs on the record were born out of that changing up of instrumentation as far as like me playing bass, more locked into a rhythm. I think the idea was generally to really like focus on groove on this one. So naturally, that's where the bass ended up being the sort of guiding force for a lot of these songs that were written around the bass and drums as the starting point. Taking a lot of influence from more vampy type of like ESG to like more minimalist funk type of music. That groove created a kind of bed for then Chuck to start playing his more dissonant noise rock inspired guitar, and something sort of felt unique to us when those elements were brought together. So that's like Fresh Hell, New Brown Neighbors, and a couple of other tracks. Peace of Mind, which is the album opener. Those are more bass driven.
Yeah. And you've always had this danceability to your music. No question in my mind that you almost are in some ways you could put a subcategory of dance in there. And exactly like songs like Fresh Hell that has that, it's that punchiness where it just almost takes the concept and just puts it on, like almost owns the idea that you have a danceability to this body of music. Is that fair to say?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's always been the guiding principle for me in performance. So, like music that makes you want to move, and that goes back to even just attending shows and just being at a show and being like, why do I want to stand here passively? Like, let's get into our body a little bit. And yeah, that to me is the physicality of music is important, let's say.
Yeah. You've got an upcoming show at Fett on June 19th. This is opening for Spoon, who are not full-time, but one member, at least full-time transplants from Austin to Providence. I mean, they have a studio up the street from where I am right now, where Jimmy, does the drummer. I was driving down Broad Street a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, oh, that's Britt Daniel walking across the street, singer of Spoon. So that's a cool ecosystem. So that's an exciting show. That feels like, what a cool show for Providence. Two bands that have ties to the city in a meaningful way, that are so real deal. That feels like the kind of show that's been missing for a while. How did that come together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that their booking agent reached out to me on Instagram, and it was kind of cool. Like, for a while, I just thought it was like, kind of an invisible hand or somebody's whispered to somebody that they should play with us. And I don't know, I just felt that was validating. And then very recently, somebody emailed me, and it was Seth from Machines, and he had put our name in the mix. So I was like, very cool. And he's somebody who I admire greatly and have always wanted to work with. So, to, whether it was through the grapevine, whether it was through that, I'm really grateful that we have gotten the opportunity in our tenure in Rhode Island to open up for these national bands that feel also like kind of like they make sense in some way. You know what I mean? It's not just because they're big or whatever. Like we played with Charles Bradley, and that's when we were doing more soul inspired stuff, and then Of Montreal was more indie stuff, and now Spoon also feels like they carved their own particular niche within indie rock, which is always something, that I respect and admire, that they're not just replicating a sound that already exists.
Yeah. Yeah, there's such a good example of a band that's endured by playing to their audience. And granted, they had an advantage of Gimme Fiction in 2004 being an amazing album, but also getting into the Pitchfork machine. So they had a wider audience. They were in a moment where indie music was more amplified to a wider audience. No doubt that has helped them sustain. But it's just cool, like you said, to scan from a catalog standpoint, even if you don't listen to it every day, and go, well, they've been inventive throughout their career, and that's especially for artists in like our age bracket. That's such a refreshing thing every time you see like, all right, adults continue to make cool music, which is like sometimes it feels defeating at a certain point. It's an ageist business, it's an ageist industry, and it feels defeating from a creative standpoint. So it's exciting to be around that kind of energy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that, we'll be meeting them for the first time while we're playing together is cool too. Because uh, it's been brought up before that I should go check out Jim's studio. So, I would love to go check it out one day. It would be a nice way to meet those guys.
Yeah. What are you
Yeah.
seeing right now in terms of indie music as you put this record out and start to prepare for whether it's touring or you've got a really good regional presence in a lot of markets, but especially Northeast? I think of you very much New York adjacent. So, but how are you feeling, and what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, I think it's cool to see just like kind of I feel like you're seeing both like minimalism and maximalism happening on both ends, and there seems to be like a genuine interest in exploring the more experimental aspects of what pop music can be. I think yeah, somehow pop seems to be ubiquitous amongst, at least the scenes that I've been sort of traversing throughout. Just the idea of like writing a hook or a verse and a chorus, like those things are sort of taken for granted, but that's a decision, right? Um, what's cool for me, I don't know, in New York, for instance, that there is a moment while Zoran is mayor, there's a lot of our friends who are linked to us through the Kaminas and Shah Jahan's friends who are doing, music made by brown people in the indie realm that is not traditional like world music. So I think that's a really exciting little pocket. We just played with a great band called Babas, featuring Sunny Ali and Karna Ray, who also plays with Downtown Boys occasionally. And that was a great bill with Anand Wilder from Yesayer, and like just having like a room, like a small venue packed full of I mean, it was not just Pakistani and Indian American, but just like a full packed room with that shared sort of demographic. Um, that was cool. And yeah, I mean, in general, I don't know. I kind of, I go in and out of paying attention to all the things that are happening. My favorite new indie record that I've heard is Mask by Porches, who's another SUNY Purchase alum. So,
Yeah.
shout out to that record.
Yeah. And that's so interesting you mentioned on the pop end. And Yeah, I do agree that the maximalist and minimalist textures, they're sometimes colliding, but it almost seems like kind of like we're heading, the people's preferences are becoming clearer and clearer, and maybe they understand them more as a consumer of art. And so maybe that's what it is too. It's just you can kind of choose your adventure a little bit better, and artists are creating in a way that suits those different appetites. At least I feel that way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think is, as a Providence-based artist right now, other than the obvious stuff? Look, housing is a disaster for everybody. Spaces are a disaster. All the obvious stuff is like aside. What's missing right now from Providence? Why can't Providence live up to this creative capital banner that Mayor Lorza created and they still wave the flag of in any meaningful way? I mean, that may be, that's not true. There are creative people here. You're included in that. I'm doing stuff. So right here in real time, that is a lie. But it's barely a lie because it's so exaggerated and is so much based on nostalgia from different eras of the past. What needs to change? What do you think needs to change right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. I feel like downtown, is a big kind of just void right now, in terms of things that you can like. It's hard even to figure out a place to like go eat. You know what I mean? Like get a sandwich, let alone like go find like a couple of venues in the same night that would be having programming, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, just thinking geographically, it would be cool if downtown could somehow, have a couple more things pop up and, everybody laments Aurora and all that. So, but I'm not a city planner or anything like that, so I don't know how to make those things happen, but I'm also always looking for more, like, recreational stuff, so that's what I try to bring to the table as far as my other projects going, and just, like, more communal kind of outdoor spaces for people to play and, gather.
Yeah, and that project Rec Room we highlighted on a previous podcast, which if you search where you're listening right now, just type in any of those words, probably either your name, Rafay, or Rec, WRECK, and it'll probably come up. You can hear that in more detail. And on that note, before we close out, anything coming up with Rec Room in the near future?
We're looking forward to this next phase. We got a new studio at a mill building nearby, and we're just going to be building out the programming for that. Applied for some grants and all that. So, but there will be more programming, and it's entering a new curatorial sort of phase where it's not just me and the objects that I've put into space, but more allowing other artists to show work. And so we had a video art piece by Asad Raza recently, and we're going to show some sculptural stuff coming up. So I'm excited to get that in the fold, amidst the ping pong and the chess and the recovery meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, man. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you.
Our friends at the Coast Guard House have a new summer program starting this Thursday at 3 o'clock, Sound Waves, and it features DJ Dayglow. Bob Leonard from the Coast Guard House and DJ Dayglow join us here to talk about what's happening in Narragansett. Bob, what was the idea behind this?
We wanted to bring entertainment back to the deck. Spinning vinyl records is nostalgic, just like the Coast Guard House is.
It's an interesting parallel, the analog musical performance, sitting by the ocean, kind of slowing down and going back to the roots. Is that the idea here, DJ Dayglow?
That's definitely it. I really love creating intentional spaces with my music. So, really picking records, slowing down, picking music that I think really complements the summer sounds of the Coast Guard House and the beachy vibes. I think it's going to be really exciting.
Bob, I think we got to get one of the sign-offs if you'd be so willing.
See friends, see food, see view. The Coast Guard House restaurant.